Welcome to part 2 of the webinar, Building Codes 101, brought to you by the International Code Council. If you've just viewed part 1, we welcome you back. If you have not viewed part 1 yet, we encourage you to watch it at some point as well. It provides an introduction to the building codes and model codes, and it provides a foundation for this second part. That said, let's get started with part 2. In part 1, we touched on ICC's model codes, and we've used them as examples in some cases. But we kept the introduction somewhat general. In part 2, we'll provide more specific information on ICC's model codes, and we'll talk about the methods that ICC uses to create and modify them. First, let me provide you an introduction to the International Code Council. ICC is a not-for-profit, membership-driven association of almost 50,000 members and has over 300 dedicated and talented staff members. ICC has approximately 350 chapters worldwide, consisting of a wide range of building and fire safety professionals. ICC's core competency is the development of codes and standards for the built environment. But it also has a number of other activities such as evaluating and certifying construction-related products, training and certifying code officials and contractors, publishing books and support materials, and much, much more. ICC has staff scattered throughout the United States and the world and operates 3 regional offices in the United States in Southern California, Birmingham, Alabama, Chicago, Illinois, and operates our headquarters in Washington, D.C. ICC has a diverse family of 15 model codes covering a range of topics, and they are adopted by jurisdictions and states around the U.S. and the world. Some, like the International Building Code, are adopted in all 50 states and most U.S. territories. Many are also adopted in countries around the globe like Abu Dhabi, the United Arab Emirates, and Colombia. The 2 newest model codes are the International Green Construction Code and the International Swimming Pool and Spa Code, which are being completed in 2011. All ICC codes are updated on a 3-year cycle using a process that will be reviewed shortly in this webinar. ICC considers its model code a family, not just because they're developed by the same organization using the same consensus development process. They are also coordinated and benefit from the fact that they can reference each other and coordinate their provisions. This is especially important to ensure that the provisions do not conflict or lead to circular references. Each code has a defined scope and is comprehensive, but the various systems of a building interact. For that reason, the family approach of ICC's codes ensures that all of the codes work together well and have a consistent and non-conflicting approach. This also means that formal interpretations obtained from ICC are applicable to all of the codes. To give a sense for the breadth of adoption of ICC model codes, the next few slides provide maps showing where ICC codes are used in the U.S. as of 2011. In this first map, the dark green color shows states that currently administer the International Building Code, or IBC, statewide. As you can see, the IBC is used in each of the 50 states and in territories like Puerto Rico and Guam. The International Mechanical Code, or IMC, is almost as widely adopted as the IBC, with a few exceptions. Again, the dark green states have the IMC administered statewide. Light green states have the IMC administered within 1 or more jurisdictions within the state at the local level. Gray colored states use a different model code or state developed code, and there are 3 in this particular case. In total, the IMC is used at the state or local level in 47 of 50 U.S. states for mechanical systems within buildings. The International Plumbing Code, or IPC, is used at the state or local level in 35 states, Washington, D.C., and Puerto Rico. Again, light-colored states have the IPC administered within one or more jurisdictions within the state at the local level. Gray-colored states use a different model code or a state-developed code, and there are 15 in this case. Having introduced you to ICC's model codes, we'll now walk you through the development process used to create and update them. Similar to the development of laws, the ICC code development follows a governmental consensus process that includes open forums of debate and refinement. It is an open, inclusive, and balanced consensus process with built-in safeguards designed to prevent domination by a single vested interest. This system of code development has provided the citizens of the United States some of the highest levels of building safety in the world for more than 80 years. When we talk about developing the ICC codes, we frequently mention that they are developed using what's called a consensus process. So what is meant by the term consensus process? Well, ICC uses well-defined consensus code development processes to create and update its model codes. This means that they use a democratic process that seeks consensus, not unanimity, on changes to the codes. There are several key characteristics of the process. First, work is conducted transparently in open public forums. Code development is conducted in public hearings that are open to anyone at no cost. Deliberation about code changes are made in open public hearings, not behind closed doors or in smoke-filled rooms. Second, a consensus process provides for balanced representation and involvement of all interest groups. The code committees that are used to develop the codes seek balance between different kinds of stakeholders. Domination of the process by any one interest group or stakeholder is not permitted. Following along these lines, full disclosure of the organization represented and any conflict of interest is required by all participants. Participation in the process is open to anyone. You do not even need to be an ICC member to be on a code committee or to submit code changes. Third, consensus processes provide something called due process. This means that equal opportunities are provided for all to participate, and all proposals, comments, and testimony receive equal consideration. There are also structures in place to ensure that all code development work is conducted in strict accordance with published code development procedures. Due process also requires that an appeal process be provided. This allows anyone to challenge perceived violations of ICC's code development procedures. Fourth, action is taken on the basis of a majority consensus. A simple majority from the committee decides the action on the proposed code changes in the first hearing. But motions and votes by the Assembly from the floor allow hearing attendees to challenge the actions of the committee. The final vote on whether or not to change the code rests with the ICC governmental member representatives, those who administer, formulate, or enforce the regulations, and are charged with the public's health, safety, and welfare, something we will review in the next slide. Let's take a closer look at what makes the governmental process unique. As we mentioned in the last slide, ICC makes use of something known as the governmental consensus process, which is formally defined in ICC's procedures. ICC's code development process uses 2 hearings for each code cycle. The first, known as a code development hearing, uses a development committee that votes on code change proposals. Decisions made by the committee can, however, be challenged by a vote of attendees in a floor action. All ICC members in attendance can participate in votes on floor actions, and any attendee can make a motion. The second hearing acts on comments regarding the results of the first hearing. There is no committee for this hearing, and each comment is voted on by ICC governmental members in attendance. The key distinction of the governmental process is that this final vote on provisions to be included in the code is only open to ICC governmental members. This is done to preserve the integrity of the process and ensure that only those who have no financial interest in the outcome may make the final determination. ICC governmental members are those who, in their positions of public trust, administer, formulate, or enforce regulations, and are charged with the public's health, safety, and welfare in some way. Eligibility to vote is carefully qualified before hearings for each code. The ICC governmental process meets the principles defined by the United States Standard Strategy of 2005. Federal participation in the development and use of codes, such as ICC's model codes, is endorsed by the Federal Office of Management and Budget in a circular A-119 and is codified by the National Technology Transfer and Advancement Act of 1995. They require federal agencies to use voluntary consensus-based standards where they exist and encourage federal participation in development activities when it is in the public interest. ICC model codes enjoy the involvement of staff from many federal agencies, and ICC's codes are referenced by many federal agencies as well. So why do we use public hearings? Well, as we mentioned before, the code development process makes use of several public hearings, which are open to any member of the public to attend, participate, and testify. These are formal democratic hearings, and they ensure that any member of the public can propose changes, offer comments, and testify in support or opposition to changes in the code. All hearings follow a very formal, defined set of rules that provide a predictable process and ordered, fair proceedings. And of course, any participant who believes that ICC's development procedures have not been followed has the ability to register an appeal with ICC's Board of Directors. ICC's code development programs enjoy the participation of a wide range of stakeholders associated with the built environment. They include code officials and building safety professionals, building and system design professionals and consultants, builders, contractors and trades, product manufacturers and suppliers, government agencies, advocacy groups such as environmental, water efficiency, energy efficiency, safety, and many more, utilities, researchers in academia, product testing and certification laboratories, and standards development organizations. But participation is not limited to these groups. It is literally open to anyone. To understand the way that ICC goes about developing and updating codes, it helps to first understand the major elements in the process. ICC's codes are updated every 3 years, usually starting soon after the completion of the previous edition. For example, the 2012 International Plumbing Code was published in the spring of 2011. The first step in the development of the 2015 IPC then begins right away in June of the same year. Let's look at the elements in detail. The first is the call for committee applications. This is an open, public call for anyone to apply to serve on a code development committee. Code development committees are the panels that preside over the first hearing of proposed code changes. There are usually separate code committees for each model code. Application forms may be downloaded from ICC's website. Once received, all applicants are placed in a category: producer, user, and general interest, which contains governmental and public safety officials. Appointments to the committee are then made by the ICC Board of Directors. The second element is the call for code change proposals. During this period, anyone may submit any proposed change to the code under development. Again, there is a form that can be downloaded from ICC's website. Code changes may insert new sections, delete language, or both. The third element of the process is the code development hearing. This is a formal, in-person hearing where every code change submitted is heard individually by the Code Development Committee. Testimony may be offered by anyone at the hearing, either in support or opposition to the change. The Code Development Committee then approves the change as submitted, approves it as modified, which means they make changes to it, or disapproves it. Regardless of the outcome, the committee must provide a technical reason for any action taken. At that hearing, there is also the ability for attendees to challenge committee actions through something called assembly actions. If approved by a vote of the ICC members in attendance, they become automatic comments for consideration at the final action hearing. The fourth element of the process is the call for public comments, where again anyone is invited to offer written comments on the results of the code development hearing. Using a form from the ICC website, participants can provide comments regarding the committee's actions on any code change proposal. These can range from small tweaks to the text of code change proposals to recommending that the committee's actions be overturned completely. In the fifth element, the final action hearing, each and every comment is heard individually. This is also an in-person public hearing which is open to all. However, unlike the code development hearing, there is no code development committee seated to hear the comments. Instead, these are heard by the assembly present, and governmental members are the only attendees qualified to vote. Again, ICC governmental members are those who, in their positions of public trust, administer, formulate, or enforce regulations, and are charged with the public's health, safety, and welfare in some way. This ensures that the final determination of code changes is made by those with no monetary interest in the outcome. Like the previous hearing, each comment is approved as submitted, approved as modified, or disapproved. This diagram shows the whole process at once and is helpful to review. So to reiterate, for each code, the process begins with a call for Code Development Committee member applications. Then there is a call for code change submissions. After all are collected, they are compiled into a single document. Each is given a unique number and posted online for review prior to the hearing. During the formal in-person code development hearing, each proposal is heard by the Code Development Committee and approved as submitted, approved as modified, or disapproved. After the code development hearing, the results are collected and posted online for review. There is then an opportunity to submit formal written public comments. These are collected and compiled into a single document, and each is given a unique number. During the formal in-person final action hearing, all comments are heard by the assembly in attendance. The governmental members present vote then on whether to approve as submitted, approve as amended, or disapprove each comment. The sum of the approved code change proposals and comments then becomes the new edition of the code, which is published after editing of the document is completed. And then the process begins again. In the ICC code development process, everyone does indeed have a voice. As you can see, interested parties do not even need to be ICC members to participate in most code development elements. In fact, non-members may even join the Code Development Committee and cast important votes on that committee at the code development hearings. Non-members may offer testimony and even make motions from the floor at both the code development hearing and the final action hearing. And of course, the appeals mechanism is open to all as well. All ICC members have the added opportunity to vote on floor motions made at the code development hearing. These are votes made on motions made by those in attendance at the hearing that oppose the decision of the committee. All ICC members in attendance may vote on these motions, and if successful, they become comments to be considered at the final action hearing. House votes at the hearing are open to all in attendance, including non-members. They are votes for certain points of order, such as changing the hearing order, that require the vote of everyone in the House. As we have mentioned before, using the governmental process, ICC governmental members are the only stakeholders who may cast a vote at the final action hearing where final decisions are made regarding the content of the codes. This example shows the layout and format of a proposed code change to the International Plumbing Code. We will walk you through the elements of that code change. In Item 1, P55 denotes the code, P for plumbing, and the proposal number for the hearing, which is to be held March of 2004. The section affected, 605.3, is identified in Item 2. Item 3 lists the name of the individual making the code change proposal and the organization they represent. Item 4 shows the action requested by the proponent, which is a revision of the current text in 605.3. Item 5 shows the actual text changes suggested. For changes, underlined text is new text, and text marked with a strikeout is proposed to be deleted. Item 6 provides the rationale for the change and any relevant background information. Item 7 indicates whether the proponent believes the change will have any impact on the cost of the building system. The last two items, 8 and 9, provide a place for hearing attendees to mark the outcome of the vote at the code development hearing. They allow those following along to circle the vote taken by the committee and the result of any motion and vote by the assembly present. In this case, AS stands for approved as submitted, AM approved as modified, and D stands for disapproved. The development of the 2012 International Code Council model codes is nearly complete. Two new model codes, the International Green Construction Code and the International Swimming Pool and Spa Code, will undergo a full round of code development activities in 2011. The code development hearing for each will be held in the spring of 2011, and the final action hearing will be held in the fall of 2011. The detailed schedule for each can be found in the Codes and Standards section of the ICC website. Development of all other 2012 ICC model codes has already been completed, and they will be published in 2011. The development of the 2015 ICC model codes kicks off in 2011 with the call for applications to serve on the code development committees. The codes are then divided up into A and B groups for scheduling purposes. Code change proposals for Group A codes, which include the building code, fuel gas code, mechanical code, and plumbing code, will be due January 2012. Code development hearings will be held for Group A in the spring of 2012 and final action hearings in the fall. For Group B codes, which is the remainder of the codes, code change proposals will be due by January 2013. Code development hearings for Group B will be in the spring of 2013 and final action hearings in the fall of 2013. There are a number of questions that come up frequently with regard to the code development process. Here are a few and some answers. A common one is, must I be a member of ICC to participate in code development? And the answer is no. You do not need to be an ICC member to submit code changes or comments, participate in hearings, make motions, offer testimony, or even sit on the committee. Voting on floor motions at the code development hearings, however, is limited to ICC members. Voting at the final action hearing is reserved only for governmental ICC members. Another common question is, does participation in code development cost anything? And the answer is no. There are no charges to submit code changes, no charges to submit comments, or to participate in hearings. You are, of course, responsible for your own travel costs, however, should you choose to attend a hearing. A third question is, I submitted a code change. How can I know when it will come up during the hearing? When hearings are announced, the order of the hearing is provided. It lists the specific order in which the numbered proposals will be heard, but it does not provide specific times for each, just a time range. The reason for the variability is that the number of individuals who will attend to provide testimony is unknown, as is the length of time each will speak. The only hard and fast date and time is the start no earlier than time provided for some sections in the hearing schedule. Beyond that, you can follow it online or at the session in person. Another question is, why doesn't ICC use the ANSI process for its code development? ICC firmly believes in its governmental consensus process, where only governmental members can vote for the final changes accepted into the code. This ensures that the only individuals voting are governmental members acting in the interest of the public and with no financial stake. This approach is not compatible with the ANSI process. ICC is an ANSI standards development organization, however, and it does use the ANSI process for the development of standards, where it believes its use is more appropriate. A final question is, can I vote or testify remotely? And the answer, again, is no. At this time, ICC does not have a mechanism for offering remote testimony orally or in writing. Testimony may only be offered by attendees to the hearings. The concept is being studied for future implementation, however, as technology improves. You can follow the hearings online for free at any time through a live webcast. However, feedback through that is not possible at this time. Let's move on to the next part. At the beginning of the presentation, we learned that building codes are focused on preserving health, safety, and general welfare of occupants and the public. This next section will focus on how the codes have changed in recent years to address the general welfare aspect, and in particular, sustainability in green building. Driven by many disasters over the years, building codes rightly focus first on the safety and health of their occupants and the public. This remains the central focus of the codes, but over time, other objectives have begun to appear in model codes as elements of the other focus, general welfare. As shown in the diagram, one of the first was durability. Many elements in the code now are included with the intent of providing a built environment that is reasonably durable. While codes cannot ensure a certain building life, they often prescribe practices and materials that prevent deterioration or premature failure. Building on this, codes have also begun incorporating provisions relating to the maintenance of products and systems. While it can be argued that proper maintenance of some building elements is a matter of health and safety, maintenance of others is probably best classified as a general welfare issue. A more controversial issue has been the inclusion of provisions seeking not only the protection of occupants, but also the protection of property within the building. Again, these kinds of provisions have been justified as contributing to general welfare. Finally, the most recent is the insertion of code changes that work towards sustainable goals such as energy or water efficiency. In this case, they work for the general welfare of society as a whole and sometimes provide cost savings to the building and its occupants. An example of such a sustainability provision that appears in the International Plumbing Code relates to the delivery of hot water. Section 607.2 of the 2012 International Plumbing Code limits the distance from the most remote hot water outlet to the hot water source to 50 feet. Clearly, this is not a health or safety issue, and it's aimed at reducing the amount of water and energy lost down the drain while the user waits for hot water to arrive. Other examples include requirements for hot water line installation, and the entire Chapter 11 in the International Residential Code, which is devoted to energy efficiency requirements. The next logical step is to build on the approach of the IECC, the Energy Conservation Code, and address sustainability in its entirety, something done by ICC's new Green Code, the International Green Construction Code, or the IGCC. ICC, working with its partners, AIA, ASTM, ASHRAE, IESNA, and USGBC, began developing this new code in 2009. Like the IECC, it is a code overlay that works with, but does not replace, base codes by adding sustainability requirements. Unlike the IECC, which focuses only on energy efficiency, the IGCC pulls in a wide range of sustainability topics. The base codes are organized around building systems or trades like structural, mechanical, electrical, or plumbing. The IGCC, on the other hand, addresses the building as an integrated system, knowing that there are different components that must interact to make the building work well as a whole. The next logical step is to build on the approach of the IECC, the Energy Conservation Code, and address sustainability in its entirety, something done by ICC's new Green Code, the International Green Construction Code, or the IGCC. ICC, working with its partners, AIA, ASTM, ASHRAE, IESNA, and USGBC, began developing this new code in 2009. Like the IECC, it is a code overlay that works with, but does not replace, base codes by adding sustainability requirements. Unlike the IECC, which focuses only on energy efficiency, the IGCC pulls in a wide range of sustainability topics. The base codes are organized around building systems or trades like structural, mechanical, electrical, or plumbing. The IGCC, on the other hand, addresses the building as an integrated system, knowing that there are different components that must interact to make the building work well as a whole. The IGCC is the first comprehensive model green construction code, and its goal is to set minimum requirements for sustainable buildings. Unlike rating systems, it is written in code language with clear, enforceable requirements. Since it is designed to be enforced by code officials, it does not use a rating system, but has specific minimum requirements. That said, it is designed to complement rating systems like LEED, by forming a foundation of sustainability that allows rating systems to be readily added to those who wish to achieve even higher levels of performance. Because it looks at the building as a system, the chapters are organized around sustainability principles such as energy efficiency, water efficiency, and indoor environmental quality. That means that a system like plumbing could be and is mentioned in multiple chapters. In the case of plumbing, it shows up in energy efficiency, water efficiency, existing buildings, and material resource conservation chapters. It is important to note that the IGCC is written to reference and be compatible with ICC's existing family of codes, so jurisdictions that adopt it can be sure to avoid conflicts when sustainability is added to their base ICC codes. So what's next for the building codes? How will the green codes evolve, and will sustainability topics continue to flow into the base codes? How will the codes interact with new design tools like building information management and life cycle assessment? Will there be a greater emphasis on codes to improve existing buildings? How will the codes integrate the latest developments in information technology? These are all great questions, and we don't yet know the answers. The consensus development process makes it hard to predict, but it also means that you can be part of the answer. ICC and its partners invite you to be part of the effort to build the next generation of building codes. It is our hope that this webinar will give you some of the tools and the knowledge you need to take part in this exciting work. For those of you who are interested in more information or taking part, we've collected several resources to help you get started. Plus, we have suggestions on how you can dive in. Hopefully by now you've seen that there are many ways to get involved in the development of building codes. Here we'll give you some additional suggestions. The first is simple. Become a member of ICC. It's cost-effective, and it gives you access to a wide range of ICC resources. Members receive access to online tools, code interpretations, and discounts on books and training. You can also get involved locally by checking out and joining a local ICC chapter. There are over 350 throughout the country, so one is probably close by. This gives you a way to find out more about code issues that are close to home. Members may also join a number of available councils and committees in ICC. Discipline-specific membership councils serve as a forum for information exchange and communication, and they also provide a feedback loop for ICC board and staff. Code action committees are discipline-specific bodies that act as a forum to deal with complex technical issues ahead of the code development process. They identify emerging issues and draft proposed code changes that are of importance to the membership. ICC also offers a wide range of training courses, some on specific codes like the IBC, IRC, and IPC. Many of these are also eligible for continuing education credits or CEUs. Others are topical, like the two shown, and are more general, and they provide basic information on things like ICC's code changes. Click on the link above to see the full course catalogs. Regardless of whether you decide to become an ICC member, we welcome you to take part in the code development process. Identify your code of interest, look up the schedule online in the Codes and Standards section of the ICC website, and submit a proposal during the submission period. Then, attend a code hearing to see code development firsthand. You don't have to attend to submit a proposal, but it's a great way to learn fast. If you can't attend, you might want to consider watching a hearing in progress live using ICC's free webcast, which is offered online while hearings are underway. Another good way to stay up to date on developments, such as calls for committee applications or codes that are calling for change proposals, is to sign up for ICC's email newsletter, or to follow us on Facebook or Twitter. It is probably one of the easiest ways to learn about codes undergoing development. This brings us to the end of the Codes 101 webinar. We hope you've enjoyed this introduction to building codes, and we hope to see you at the next code hearing.